Hey everyone, ThemeNectar here. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over one of the biggest aspects of Salient 2.0, the Nectar Slider. We'll cover all important aspects, such as creating new slides for both image and video backgrounds, creating slider locations, and actually adding the sliders onto pages themselves. I know you guys are really antsy to start using this feature, so let's jump right into it. All I've done so far is created a page called Nectar Slider, which is going to house an instance of the slider that we'll eventually put on. As you can see, I've already added a little bit of a layout that's going to appear under the slider, just so the page is not completely bare. You can see what that looks like right over here on the front. Okay, so let's go back into the admin and head over to the new panel on your left-hand side called Nectar Slider. You'll see a familiar interface, very similar to the home slider, except there's an extra tab that's been added called Slider Locations. You'll set these up for different areas that you want to display different slides on your site. We don't actually have to go into this tab to do it. You can do it on the fly, similar to how you would create categories for posts when you're actually adding one itself. So let's add a new slide. And let's start off with something basic. We'll make this one just an image background, and then we'll move on to the video background afterwards. The first thing we have to do, obviously, is upload an image. I've already added one onto the server for convenience. Let's select this one and continue. So the first thing that we should do is add some text. We can add a heading and a caption. I'm going to paste some text in here similar to the one that we've seen on the live demo. And for the caption, you can see I have a couple of breakpoints just for a little bit extra control over where the lines should break on the front. Here you can see we have options for multiple buttons. We also have a lot of parameters to set up for those buttons. That'll give us a lot of control over how everything will end up displaying. So let's enter some text in and get these buttons set up. Here we have view more features and learn more about us, which is also the text from the live demo. We can set up the links for where they should lead here, and we can also pick the style of button and the color. I'm just going to make this one a transparent button, and I'll make the second one stand out more, so I'll leave it as a solid background. I can also change the color based upon the colors we have selected in our options panel. I'm going to select the extra color too, and we can actually leave the alignment as it is, because we want the slide to be centered vertically and left aligned. That's all we need to do for setting up the initial slide. Right over here you can see we can add a location, since we haven't already set one up in this tab. So let's add one and just call it our awesome slider. Now we can save this. And let's go on to our page where we want to display the slider. Right now, it's not really a slider since it's just one image, but we'll add more slides to it soon. Go back on over to the pages, and I'm going to head to the sample page I had set up. Here we want the slider to display on the top of the page, so I'm just going to push this content down and go into the shortcode generator. Here you can see one of the first things is the Nectar Slider element. When you click on that, you'll be presented with configuration options. Let's set the slider height to a decent height, around 600 pixels. And here you can see the rest of the options that we have, all specific to each slider. It's worth noting that these options appear in the shortcode generator rather than the theme options panel, so that you can change each slider to fit your specific needs. For example, you might want a full width slider on one page with arrow navigation, but you might want a smaller slider on another page with bullet navigation. Here we're going to go for full width, so let's display that. And we can check off the arrow and bullet nav for now, even though they won't appear yet since we only have one slide. They will appear once we start adding more. Let's also enable swipe, and let's go ahead and add the shortcode. Let's go ahead and update that and see what happened on the front. Here, let's refresh the page. And as you can see, the slider has now been placed full width on the top of the page with our desired caption and buttons. Let's start making things a little bit more interesting. Let's go back to our page. Let's say we want to make that slider parallaxed. Well, we could just add the attribute on here for parallax equals true, but I'm just going to regenerate that real quick instead. Our awesome slider is already selected. We have 600 pixels, and this time I'm just going to check the parallax box at the bottom. Now you can see that the attribute has been indeed added, and if we go back onto the front, you'll notice that it is now parallaxed when you scroll. Pretty simple, huh? Alright. Let's go add another slide, and let's make that one a video slide so we can see how that process works. I'm going to head back on over to the Nectar Slider, and I'm going to add a new slide. This time I'm going to select the video background as the background type, And here you can see we're presented with different options for video upload. Let's quickly take a look at what browser supports what video type. Here you can see on W3 that this information is listed for us in a grid. Take note that there is no one file type that you can supply that would make it cross-browser compatible. You must supply at least two. The recommended usage in Salient is going to be Webm and Mp4. This combination will yield the best results and is mandatory if you plan on having multiple video backgrounds on the same page. This is because at the current state, Chrome can only handle multiple videos on the same page when using a Webm file type. If you supply an Mp4 and an OGG rather than a Webm, you might experience crashes in Chrome. Therefore, it's always safest just to stick with Webm and Mp4. It will ensure your video plays in every browser, and you'll never have to worry about it. Let's go back on over to our Nectar slider, and let's indeed upload a Webm and Mp4. Here I'm going to click on the Add Media button, and switch on over to the Upload Files tab, and upload my video. I can now select the file, and I'm going to do the same for the Mp4. While we're here, it's also worth noting that there's a possibility you'll run into an upload cap on your server, where the file size you're uploading is greater than what your server will allow. In this case, you can either contact your hosting provider and ask them to up your max upload limit size, or you can simply paste a direct URL into your video, meaning you can manually upload the video to your server with FTP and then simply paste the link in here. Now that we have our two videos inputted, let's scroll down a little bit more and see what else we can do. A preview image should always be uploaded for video slides because it will be what is seen on mobile devices. Currently, it is not worth trying to get video backgrounds to display on mobile devices for a few reasons. Firstly, videos are not allowed to be automatically played on mobile devices for data usage reasons, meaning the user would actually have to play each one of your video backgrounds, which defeats the purpose of it, since it's supposed to be used simply as a design element. Another reason it wouldn't work so well is because different phones do different things with videos. For example, iPhones like to pop up videos in a separate player full screen, which really wouldn't work well in this case. If your goal is to have a video that will display on a phone, this is not the way you should be going about it. These video backgrounds, again, are only supposed to be used to enhance the overall look and design of your site. A good example would be what is seen on the demo. The videos are very subtle and lack audio. This way they are not overwhelming to your users, but add a very eye-appealing look to the overall design. If your goal is to actually have a video that is available on all devices, and be more of an informational video, all you have to do is go down to the button links and enter the URLs for your video here. If it is a video from YouTube or Vimeo, it'll automatically be opened in a pop-up player when the user clicks on it. Going back up, let's finish up the last options we have for video slides. Here you see we have a checkbox to add a subtle texture on top of the video. I'm going to check that for good measure. And you can see we have the alignment option, which I'm just going to leave in the center. Let's go ahead and assign this slide to our awesome slider location. And let's go back on the front and see how it looks. Here you can see our slider controls are now active because there is indeed more than one slide. Both the pagination and the arrows are displaying as we've selected them both in the shortcode. If we switch on over to the second slide, we'll see that our video is now in place and is automatically playing for us upon switching to it. We didn't add any captions, titles, or buttons into this slide, but the process would be the same. Back in the admin panel, let's just add one more slide for good measure. Here I've selected Add New Slide. We can make this one an image background. I'm going to upload additional image, one again seen on the live demo of the desk. And this time let's go down and change the font color to be a dark. Let's scroll down and enter our text into the boxes. Same text from the live demo, of course. And down here, let's add some buttons. We don't really need to add a link for this. And I'm going to choose a different color. This one is going to be a black. That's set up in my options panel. And this one can be the transparent again. This time I'm going to center the text, and I'm also going to align in the top section of our slider rather than the middle. Let's assign the slide, publish our changes, and quickly let's just reorder those slides to go over the process. Also, once again, very similar to the home slider, except we have a choice to select our location, since there will be multiple ones. Select our only one right now, and let's make the desk go to the second place, and let's actually make the video go in front. The slides will now be saved in that order. There's no need to do anything further. And let's go back and see how everything looks. Refreshing the page, we'll now see that the video is going to play first. We have 3 slides, obviously. And switching over to the second, we'll see our desk. It's worth noting, since we changed the text to the dark color, that both the pagination bubbles and the arrows change to the dark color. You can see switching on slide change. And the parallax effect is still indeed working. I'm just going to go over one really cool thing. On the demo, if you go to this specific slide, you'll notice that when you scroll down, the text is actually not moving at a different speed than the background, like it normally would in a parallax slide. If you look closely, you'll see that the text is indeed moving slightly faster than the background. This is to make it look like it's in front of it. But in this specific slide, I want it to look like the text is actually on the table, meaning I don't want it to be moving at a different speed. But I would still like the other slides to have a normal parallax effect where it is moving slightly different. I've actually added in one class that you can simply add to your slides called static, and that will make it so that your captions do not move at a different speed. This is kind of just one of those extra features that won't really get used that often, I'm sure, but it is in the documentation and I will go over using it just in case you want to. I go back over into my slides, go to the smart slide, and I'm going to add the extra class name as static. Now you'll see when we go back on the front, when we're scrolling down with the parallax, it won't be moving at a different speed. It looks like it's almost stuck to the wood, which is what we were going for in this case. I'm going to go ahead and just add one more instance on the same page just so you get a full feel for what is shown on the demo. Back in the admin panel, we're going to make a new location. This time we'll do it from the actual designated area on the left-hand menu rather than doing it on the fly. I'm going to call this one coding. And we can now go back and add another slide. This one is going to be the example of the text editor coding that is kind of blurred. See it on the home page and a couple other pages on the demo. So I'm just going to go ahead and select coding right away so I don't forget. Switch on over to the video background, and I will proceed to upload videos for it. First the Webm, and then the MP4. And the preview image, of course. Let's go ahead and add the text in really quick. And the buttons. And I will go ahead and add the video link in just for a demonstration of this into one of them. And this time we're going to use extra color 1 and 3 and make them both solid color backgrounds instead of using a transparent. Also, let's just align that text to the center. We can now publish this, go back on over to our page, insert another Nectar Slider shortcode, and this time you can see we have the coding one already selected. We just have to set up our height, and we don't need to put on any of these other things because it's only going to be one slide. Update the page. Here we have our top slider, and scrolling down you can see our second slider, which is just used as a video background for its design element. Here's the video link I was talking about. And as you can see, in just a few minutes really, you can deploy multiple instances of the Nectar Slider and start building some really amazing and appealing pages. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please join me in the next one where we continue with more of the new features. Cheers, guys.